Hi, this is Rosalind Eve, and this is Paint Pouring with Roz. Today we're going to be looking at composition, and we're cutting a painting. So if you are painting on a hardboard canvas or you're painting on masonite, then there is that advantage rather than doing a stretched canvas, that you can actually cut it or change the composition. If you've got a really huge one, well, then you've got a lot of room to play if you want to cut it up into smaller pieces. Okay, so today's projects, I looked at these two images, and you can see that, and I did not like the composition. And it is interesting, if you do it on a hardboard canvas, this is a hardboard canvas that you can buy, see on the back there? Okay. If you do that, then you have an option, or on masonite is fine too. Then you have the option of, if you don't like your composition, rather than sanding it, because in this case I did spray it with varnish, a type of varnish. So let's say you don't like the composition, which I don't. Okay, so now you want to change that. So do you want to repaint it? Well, in this case I don't, because I went, well, can I make this into separate paintings? Now, because this is a hardboard canvas, you're already committed to frames. Now, mind you, these are standard sizes, so now you're committing to, getting a custom size frame, but you are getting very interesting, much more interesting shapes too. So if you take this one, let's say, and say, well, how, is that a good composition? Well, to me, no, there's too much there. And if you look at this side, too little. Okay. So let's try the other one. Well, actually, what I did was I went like this. I went this way. This is on the third line according to the rule of thirds. You can look it up on Google. You can Google the rule of thirds. And you can see that this makes this in a very prime position to be an main area of interest. Now you've got the appropriate amount of space to be your interest and to have it be more exciting. And the same over here. So if you see that, if we cut it this way, do you see how we've got this as being on your, third? So now you've got this as your main area of interest, and this as being like alternatives. Now you've got two nice compositions, whereas like this, I really don't like it. Okay, so what happens if we do that to this image? Okay, so again, as it is, like, that's not a very good composition, and the shape is not as good when you cut it this way. I like the longer, thinner shape. I think it's more exciting and interesting. And the same here. This could be a reasonable composition, but look at what happens when we go like this with the more interesting shape. Is that not more interesting? And this is on the third, or close enough to the third line. 1/3 up from the bottom, or 1/3 down, 1/3 in, 1/3 in, you see? Okay, so that's good. And if you look at it this way, right now it looks like boring over here, right? But as soon as you cut out all of that, what happens? Now this becomes much more interesting. This still isn't as good of a composition, but it's much more successful. So then if you were thinking about repouring one and sanding down one, you could do that with this, or sand down an area and just put in some more light or whatever you want to play with. Then you've got a play with it piece. Now you've got, actually, if you look at this, you see, and if you divide it here, you've got three that would actually go together really well as a set. So that's the plan. And how are we doing that? Well, of course you have to draw your lines, and I messed up here and here, because this is actually not exactly the 7 inches. there's actually a little bit of space, so I didn't realize that, so I measured it one way and then I measured it from the other side and I got two different lines. It's actually going to end up being right in the middle of those because of that little extra space. Okay, so what you're doing, I always, like, you should have a piece of wood ideally, but if you don't, and then you have to be careful about scraping your piece across the wood because of the texture and grain of the wood. So all you're doing is you're taking your X-Acto knife. Now when you do this, and yes, I will have to re-signature it and everything, and date it and so on. Okay, so all you're doing is you're making a slice. Now be very careful the first slice that you do, because your knife is going to want to keep following that exact line. So the very first couple of slices there, you've got to really line it up well. Put cardboard, so if you don't have a piece of wood, put cardboard. I've got an old painting board that I've got there, and cardboard so you don't damage anything underneath. So you don't need fancy equipment, you just need your X-Acto knife here. And then you be very careful with your first few slices and don't have your fingers near the blade. But you've got to hold it very, very securely as you're doing it, because it wants to slide and everything on cardboard. It's slippery. And like I said, the first couple are very important. Okay, so there's the first slice. Then you'll find the next slice is easier because you've already got a track where it's slicing. I don't know if you can see that. There is definitely a groove there. So as you continue to do this, it's going to get easier and easier. Now you're going to do that with both, and I don't want to bore you, so we're going to jump ahead to once I get them sliced up. We're getting there. Now that's not sticking out very far here, so then we unlock it again, we press it, we press it forward, and then you lock it into place so that it doesn't go back in or go out further. I like to have it lined up with the next line for breaking it, but you can make it longer if you like. You can snap it out an extra little bit there and that. So I want you to see what the back looks like. So when you're doing it, do you see how when you fold it, how there's a deep groove there? And you can see on the front that it's already starting to separate a little bit at the top. So then you can keep going like this, or you can saw it down, like I said, once you see it starting to separate. And you can see light through that crack somewhere. And you probably can't because there's no light there, but I can. Okay, sorry. Okay, so when you get to that point, then you can just hold it up like this, and like I said, you can saw it all the way to the bottom. Much sharper blade now, eh? So I held it up there, and then I just took my knife and I sawed down that line, right where it bends there. I just sawed down there, and it just cut right off, no problem. Okay, so you can see, let's get rid of this cardboard here. Now you get a plainer surface that you can see things on there. Okay, so now you can see the individual pieces. If you want to, you can turn it into, and I would do it the opposite because you can tell it connects there. So I would do it like this as a set. And you can see you've got a much better, more interesting compositional set of 3 than you did have as a 2. So let's go back to a 2 so you can compare. Okay. So there's as 2 images. Oh, okay, I gotta bring them this way. Sorry. Okay, so there's a 2, a set of 2, and let's say you went like this and said, well, let's make that into a pair. You see, it just doesn't work, eh? Okay, but like I said, when you go like this, you go like this. Actually, I would put this at the top because the top it's more dramatic. So I would go like this and flip this one. That. Or go like this and put it over here. So then you can sort of decide how you want your set to be, because this makes it the main area of interest. This makes this at the bottom, which is more comfortable when a mass is down low than when a mass is up high. So then you have to decide if you want it like this, you know, so that they're all the main areas of interest are at the top, or if you want only the center one to be dramatic by being at the top, then you would go like this, you see? And then you've got your main area of interest up at the top. 1/3 down is your rule of thirds. And if this was one big solid image, it would be, this would be your third line, because it's 1/3 in, 1/3 in, 1/3 in, and 1/3 in. And that's where you want your areas of interest to be more powerful and to make a stronger statement and be more dramatic. That's where you want your main area of interest to be. So you decide, you know, how you want to do it. If you want to cut things, that is one of the advantages of doing paintings on masonite, is that you can do a huge painting and then go, I hate it, but I love this, and I love this, and I love that. And then you just cut it where you want, and you make little canvases the size that you would like. And then you have your little masterpieces. Okay, so I hope that this will give you the courage to try more different things, including this, to make 3 images, because I like it now. The other thing I wanted to point out is, in this original pair here, do you notice how side heavy all the area of interest is here, and that this yellow is not really strong enough to be a main area of interest? But as soon as you, and look at how you notice the green and the yellow so much as a whole, but when you separate them, you don't really notice the green and the yellow so much. Even in this one, you don't notice it so much. You notice more the blues and the yellow. So how it is laid out can change just by doing that, you know. Okay, well, I hope you found this informative, and I plan on doing more. Of course, you can like and subscribe, and that would be great. And if you hit the bell, then you'll get notified every time I do a new one. And hopefully this has been informative, and I hope you've had as much fun and enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed doing this. Okay, thank you. Bye for now.